Can anybody see it on Twitter? Ron and I had trouble viewing it from my own account. Oh, there we go.
I can't see it yet.
I can see it. So we're now streaming and it is very delayed. So I'm going to turn that off. Let's see if I can record this. For anybody early to the stream, right on time, you are a commendable individual with great moral character. But just bear with us while we confirm that everything is running properly before we get the town hall for Koinos kicked off. Plus, that'll give us some time to allow the less virtuous people to attend.
At first, it showed 4 viewers. I thought it was just the 4 of us, but we're up to 13 now.
Nice.
We're having some people filter in.
Yeah, I was very happy to see the number of people who said that they were going to attend this today. And yeah, it's probably not the most convenient time for everybody. So we really appreciate that.
So a big thank you to anybody who's watching this after the fact.
Oh, absolutely.
You're also dedicated, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a great point. You're making the effort to catch up. All right, well, I can't see how to record this. So I guess we'll just take whatever we get. All right. What do you guys think? Has it been long enough? Should I just get this thing kicked off?
Yeah, why not? Start it up.
All right, I will do that. Okay, well, thanks everybody, who's watching. Thank you to the Koinos Group team. For those who don't know, I'm Andrew Levine. Why don't we go around and introduce ourselves first, and then we'll jump into kind of the agenda. I'm Andrew Levine, CEO of Koinos Group. That's me. Who wants to go next?
I'm Ron Jimenez, COO of Koinos Group.
All right, I'm Steve Gerbino, CTO of Koinos Group.
And I'm Michael Vandenberg, CIO of Koinos Group.
There we go. Well, and for those who don't know, Steve and Michael wrote the vast majority, if not all, of the Koinos blockchain between them. So, we built Koinos, we released it. Steve and Michael architected and constructed it with their bare fingers. And hopefully more people, and their brains and their fingers. And hopefully more people will come to know these guys as we have over the last 4 years building Koinos, as incredible minds and contributors to the blockchain world, to the decentralized movement. So yeah, big ups to them. We're Koinos Group, but the goal of this town hall, it's the end of the year. We want to do more stuff like this, and we want to involve the community. We want to help organize the community and create spaces for community members, community developers to get out there. And so I'm going to give a brief overview of the last year. We're going to talk a little bit about what we're doing now, and hopefully we'll be able to figure out how to open this to some community members or community developers who want to share what they're up to But we're big believers in the idea that the best way to do something is to just start doing it. And so, hopefully we'll get better at these and be able to do more of them and integrate more community members as we go forward. So I just want to start by thanking all the community members, all of the developers who've been building on Koinos. Koinos is nothing without the developers building amazing applications on it, and the community members who use those applications and evangelize for those applications and for the adoption for Koinos, adoption of Koinos. Thank you all so very much for joining us in this effort. I've been finding myself thinking back a lot lately to what we're trying to do in a big picture way here, what the reason why we started out on this journey. And we talk a lot about building the first free to use blockchain. We talk a lot about the features of Koinos, which we couldn't be more excited about. But all of this is in service to something that's much bigger. And it sounds kind of crazy when you say it out loud, but it's reinventing society. It's really changing the way that human beings coordinate and govern themselves and interact with one another and exchange value. And that's huge. That's crazy. That's frankly a kind of a crazy thing to do. It's a big, hairy, audacious goal. All the developers, all the community members, you're all, when you join Koinos, you're joining this crazy mission. And yeah, there are other blockchains out there, but they do not appeal to mainstream. They're not capable of onboarding mainstream users. They cater to the interests of a tiny group of extremely wealthy individuals or people who are already into crypto. They're just building, they're just reinforcing a bubble as opposed to trying to break out of that bubble. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's what, I think all of the developers and community members of Koinos are trying to do. So in 2023, we accomplished a lot. It was a pretty great year if you zoom out. Obviously, we only launched Koinos on November the 5th, 2022. So 2023 was really the first year of Koinos's life. Pretty quickly, we had a bunch of great dApps, all the foundational dApps that I think a blockchain needs: a DEX in CoinDX, collection, Coiner, Koinos blocks, Koinos account protocol, and I'm probably leaving some out. Condor web wallet, of course. Then there have been newer sets of newer apps that I think explore the unique features of Koinos that are more experimental, that take advantage of the free to use nature of Koinos. I'm thinking Canvas, Conio, Koinos Social, and all of these are a great foundation for the Koinos blockchain. And I think very laudable that we've been able to get these applications in the first year and with zero help from us, right? These are autonomous grassroots efforts. Yeah, we couldn't be happier about the set of apps that are on Koinos now. We've also gotten the cross-chain bridge through the Change Finance partnership. So now Koinos is connected to Ethereum and actually a large number of different blockchains. So, going back to that big, hairy, audacious goal, we had to build this new standalone blockchain in order to accomplish the objectives of a blockchain that could onboard mainstream users. And but a consequence of that, and it had to be truly grassroots. It had to be from the ground up, not top down, in order to accomplish our goals. And the only way to do that is to really do it from the bottom up, with a fair launch, with as a community effort, which a lot of people look at that and they say that that's the hard way to do it. And it is hard, but the way we look at it is that it's the only way. And so, it's a very open question, would the apps come? Would people build on this, given that we don't have all these VC funds, we didn't ICO? And I think now, looking back at 2023, what we see is absolutely high quality people are attracted to what we're bringing to market, because we're the only opportunity ordinary people have to even get involved with this technology. Ordinary developers, ordinary users can become extraordinary by building on Koinos. So all these developments, I think, are really great, and especially for just 1 year of being in life. I think we can be very proud of what we've all accomplished in 2023. The community is also getting super organized. We've got a number of community groups going now. There's an exchange group, there's a marketing group, there's an international relations group, there's a web presence group. We're in discussions. I know well, I'll leave the updates from the community groups to the community groups right now. I think the important thing is that these groups exist and are making progress on those fronts. And I think, Michael and I talked about this yesterday, about how the theme of 2024, one of the major themes of 2024, we think is going to be decentralizing leadership. And I think, these community groups are a great step towards decentralizing leadership within the Koinos ecosystem. There's also the amazing Chinese community that we've had come online in the last month or so, which is growing very rapidly. And the Asian market, the Asian people is a group that we've absolutely wanted to gain inroads into for a long time. Believe that Koinos is great for everyone, and there's a lot of people there, a lot of great people there. So it's really exciting to see progress being made on that front as well. So that's a little overview of 2023. I'd like to hand it over now to Steve and Michael to discuss technical updates. You guys ready to discuss some technical updates?
Yeah, I guess I could start a little bit. I guess it's appropriate to first go over some of the things related to the blockchain itself. One of the things Michael and I are working on now is modernizing our code base. We're using a new project structure called Pitchfork. Don't be alarmed; it has nothing to do with the chain. It's just the name of how to structure a repository. One of the benefits that we're looking to capitalize on by doing this is integrating Clang static analysis into our continuous integration. Being primarily me and Michael supporting this project, it's very important to have things set up in a way to make that possible. Things like code coverage, unit tests, and now static analysis to help improve, code quality. So that's one of the major things that we're doing right now. I'll throw it to Michael. You want to talk about the mempool block producer stuff that's upcoming?
Yeah. So, what was it, about maybe even almost a month ago now? We had transactions throughput slow down due to nonce conflicts in the mempool. And the unfortunate side effect was that blocks were only being produced with one transaction because there was conflicting transactions in the mempool. So we've already written a fix for that in the mempool by making the mempool nonce aware. There's some additional work that needs to be done with chain, with the block producer, with P2P to sort of fully flesh out that feature set. But the end result should be a better user experience for all end users. We want individuals to quickly know whether their transaction got in the mempool or not. We also need to do this in such a way that still continues to protect the blockchain, that doesn't allow malicious transactions to be spread on the P2P network. And so we're working on updates to all of those microservices as well, to be able to better facilitate, improve the user experience on the transaction side of things.
Yeah. Other than the blockchain side, we, as you may know, we have our Koinos Pro product that we've been working on for a while. We've been working with a company called Acromedia that's helping us design, a nice front end. It needed a little love, so it's getting a little love. That's coming down the pipeline right now. All sorts of enhancements regarding subscription tiers, charts to show you, the API requests over time that a particular user has. And like I said, a complete reskin that should mesh better with the Koinos Pro front end. Michael has been doing a tremendous amount of work improving the back-end system that supports Koinos Pro SaaS product itself. I guess I could throw it over to you. You could talk a little more about that.
Yeah, so we started work on Koinos Pro at the beginning of this year. We had known, since day one of us building Koinos, was we wanted to build the blockchain that we wanted to use, but then we wanted to make an actual business on top of Koinos. Our belief is there's far too many blockchain businesses just build their blockchain and sort of their whole business model is the token price goes up, we make money. And while certainly that correlation will also be true for us, right? If the value of coin increases, more people will probably be using Koinos. That then converts into customers for Koinos Pro, which helps out our bottom line. But we don't want our business to directly be tied to the coin price. We want to be building a legitimate business. The other side of that is it's also forcing us to dog food everything rather than just write a bunch of software and let everybody use it, not have to use it ourselves. So the idea for Koinos Pro of building an API SaaS product and almost a sort of a platform where we can build other SaaS products on top of was in the back of our mind for a very long time. So we launched Koinos November of last year, and essentially immediately started working on Koinos Pro. And it became very apparent to us that we wanted the whole back-end infrastructure to be modern and enterprise and allow us to scale well as Koinos grows. For those of you that don't know or weren't around with all of some of the Steemit saga and drama, not scaling infrastructure was a major factor in sort of everything that happened. Like if there's a negative that you can think of with Steemit, probably infrastructure cost has something to do with it. That maybe seems like an overstatement, but having seen everything, I 100% it was. And my job was far more focused on back end work with Steemit than it was anything user facing. So we wanted to just eliminate that as a problem with Koinos from the get go. And so we've spent time, a lot of time this year, building up the proper infrastructure on the back end. So everything we're doing is Kubernetes. We're dynamically scaling as many things as we possibly can. We haven't gotten around to completely converting the Koinos node to be like truly like Kubernetes native quite yet, as I would call it. But certainly from day one with the microservice architecture, like that's the direction we're headed, is deploying microservices directly into Kubernetes. All of Koinos Pro is already set up. I mean, currently running. When we launched the free version of Koinos Pro several months ago, we swapped over the public API endpoint to redirect to Koinos Pro. So everything has already been running on this infrastructure for several months now. And even great little story. Woke up yesterday and saw we had a production alert of some increased usage, and went in and looked at everything. The public API node got spammed, so you know who you are, but all of our infrastructure handled it perfectly. So I was very pleased to see some real world stress and testing on it. And so a lot of it's behind the scenes. You don't see it a whole lot, but for us, we now have a really strong foundation for our infrastructure moving forward that is going to allow us to move faster in 2024 than we had than we've been able to in 2023. And I think it's the same story of Koinos, right? We want to make sure Koinos was built right. So it maybe took us a little bit longer, but we have the strong foundation that now within this last year has allowed all of these dApps to launch and be successful, and so that's what we're hoping to do with Koinos Pro as well. And we've already got, more ideas, features, things that we want to see added to it that we're hoping to get around to. And the good news is, Steve had mentioned reskin of the Koinos Pro dashboard. That's going to coincide with we'll be adding in the paid tiers for increased service, as well as the enterprise tier for enterprise partners. And that'll come along with the reskin, as well as some basic analytics looking at, API usage, things like that. So all of that is coming together at the same moment. And we're looking at an early Q1 release for that. And it's looking really good. We're super excited about it.
Yeah, it might help people to understand. I think what you guys are effectively explaining is how, I think a lot of people think oh, you've got a blockchain, somebody builds a dApp on it, and the blockchain is up all the time. And I think there's an analogy there too. Like building Koinos maybe took a little longer than we expected, but 100% uptime. Koinos Pro, similar thing. Everybody's going to build these dApps. We want to achieve viral growth. What we've seen based on our experience at Steemit is that's when everything breaks. When you have that sudden burst of usage, that app that everybody loves breaks, and then nobody's happy, and nobody likes your blockchain. It's more than just the blockchain, and so all this hard work that you guys have been doing behind the scenes, with Koinos Pro is all about ensuring that the apps, first of all, it's easier to build the apps because the developer is just using API calls, and they don't have to spend as much time or effort building, doing any node stuff, running a node, building in redundancy into their node, etc. So it makes it faster and easier to spin up your app, and then and your app and our API. The goal is what, 99.9% uptime, 99% uptime.
Trending towards 100%. That's the goal.
Yeah. And so that when you have that adoption, not only is it easier, not only are you going to get better infrastructure because, good luck building infrastructure as robust as what you guys have been building. It's not a critique of other developers, but you literally built the blockchain, and have spent the last year or so on this infrastructure. So you're going to have more uptime running on Koinos Pro than you probably would running on your own infrastructure. Is that all fair to say?
Yeah, and I think the big part of it is Koinos Pro is intended to help developers build on Koinos quickly, right? We're trying to remove as many barriers to entry, and I think we already have a super killer feature set with TypeScript smart contracts, right? Or the assembly script, like that's already a killer feature.
Shout out to Roman.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like we absolutely love the work that the Roman's done there, and but also like you've got to run the node, and when everything works, like that's great. But if stuff breaks or your dApp becomes really popular, and now you've got to manage your own infrastructure, like what you just said of everything's great until that dApp gets popular and then it starts breaking. Well, that really, that sucks if we're running a public API endpoint right now we're panicking to support them. So we want to make sure we have the infrastructure, but the same thing's true as if they're running the node themselves. Now, all of a sudden they're spending all their time running infrastructure rather than building the cool dApp. And running infrastructure is probably not what they're passionate about, if I just had to guess. And so we want to be there for them, but also like it's a non-trivial amount of time to run a Koinos node and to sync it, and or even testnet. So being able to sign up on Koinos Pro for free, generate your API key, and instantly just connect up and start using Koinos. Uploading a smart contract to the testnet and interacting with it without having to spin up a node. That is what's required, in my opinion, to get to onboard developers in today's world. There are so many technologies. If we don't make it as dead simple as possible to use Koinos and to sort of get that initial feedback loop of I've used Koinos, I can see it, it's on the blockchain. Oh, that's cool, right? We need them to get to the that's cool moment as quickly as possible, for them to realize the benefit. If it's going to take them, 8 hours of work before they get that feedback, they're going to be using a different technology, and not just saying a different blockchain. They might not be using Web3 at all. So our goal is to make it as simple as possible. And all the other product ideas we have for Koinos Pro all fit within that scope of making it as easy as possible for new developers to begin building on Koinos. And I just want to also just be clear, just because we're running infrastructure doesn't mean we don't want other people running nodes. It's crucially important that other individuals and organizations are still running nodes for Koinos to remain decentralized. So we're not offering block production, services on Koinos Pro. It's just API access. You want to produce blocks, you still need to run your own infrastructure. That's purposeful because it's paramount that Koinos remains decentralized. And I fully expect that there may be longtime partners, businesses that are building on Koinos Pro that decide to leave to do the infrastructure themselves. And I think that should still be viewed as a success. Like, we've helped build a business so large and so successful on Koinos that they no longer need our help. Like, they can do it themselves. That would still be a success for Koinos Pro. Now, I'm hoping we can continue to offer enough benefits that maybe they'll change their mind. But still, we're going to try to stay ahead of the curve. But if a business were to grow to that size, that's still awesome, and I'm happy for them.
Well, I think one of the things that you touched on that I think is really important and that I'm really proud of is the genius behind this business model, which we all kind of came up together. It came up with together, based in large part based on our experience at Steemit, of just figuring out how we can make sustainable revenue while aligning incentives to maximize growth and decentralization. We're not competing with apps. We're here to support apps. Fundamentally, our success is tied to the growth and decentralization of Koinos. So it doesn't benefit us if Koinos is super centralized. Totally defeats the whole purpose. Nobody would really want to build apps or dApps on Koinos, and then Koinos Pro suffers. So yeah, I think that's a really important thing for people to understand. And I think it's something that we can be really proud of, because it's quite simple. It's almost obvious if you think about it. And yet I don't know of any other blockchain team that is launched in this way. Like you said, Michael, everybody else pretty much just launches with the token and says, if the token goes up, we're good. And that's it.
Doesn't think their business model much past that point.
Yeah, which is crazy. You're supposed to be smart, but that seems like a really silly thing to do. But if you want to get rich quick, it's a perfectly rational thing to do. What do we like to say? We're very bad at, if we're only in it for the money, we're really bad at that. All right, Steve, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I think Michael summed it up pretty well. I also think that one of the things I see Koinos Pro kind of filling the niche for is being cost effective. If you're a specialized engineer, DevOps, whatever, your hourly time is worth money, and I would think that we could be more cost effective. If you're actually starting a business, running a business, you have things to build, features to build. Worrying about node uptime is not really something that you probably want to be dealing with. And I think that leveraging economies at scale, we could provide that service more cost efficiently than many would be able to do themselves. And that's kind of supporting growing a business on Web3, which aligns with our goal. That's the only other thing I would mention.
Yeah, I think that's a really good bridge back into something Michael said that I think very few people appreciate. And we got front row seats to at Steemit. People people would always be like, why doesn't this get better? And I think Michael and Steve, you probably witnessed this a bit too. For those who don't know, Steve was with Steemit less time. He was there for the last year, the spectacular last year. The worst year.
Was there for the death blow.
The death blow. But I think even in that year, what you probably saw this was that we would have all these plans, and then things would go well, and we'd divert everything to infrastructure and trying to scale. Especially in that last year, so much work was done to keep Steam functional and Steemit.com the same, not make them better. And so people don't realize what a devastating dance cycle of death that is, where every time something goes well, you're in panic mode, everything's on fire, and you're just spending all of your time putting out fires. And even worse, you've context switched at the highest level. You've now spent 6 months doing something totally different. And now you're supposed to, and now things are bad again. So no one's using. Oh, so now you can work on making it better. Is that a fair interpretation of kind of what went wrong there?
I think that technical debt really kneecaps you when it comes to agility. You want to do all these big things, add all these features, and then technical debt comes and slaps you in the face. So it's really important to keep that at bay, deal with it while it's manageable. And I think Michael and I are doing a good job of that, probably because we've been burnt by it.
Well, that's who you want. That's who you want.
It's why we've spent the time building the correct foundation for our infrastructure. It's why we're taking the time to modernize the code base, the C++ code base, add in static analysis to CI, add in code formatting, simplify the project structure. All of these things serve to eliminate technical debt. And it also reduces the barrier to entry for other engineers to work on that code base, right? It's just Steve and I right now. We want, we want more community developers to be able to work on Koinos. And I think it's, we can touch on it a little bit more later. I think it's great that we have a community governance proposal about to get voted on, right? That is part of the solution to this problem, but also reducing the barriers to entry for people to actually work on sort of the framework code and, keep it debt free, if you will. All of that is a huge part of what we're doing in sort of this endeavor of decentralizing leadership. Like Steve and I aren't going anywhere, right? But as Koinos gets bigger, our attention gets divided amongst more things. And so we just need more people, more community developers involved to just keep going with what we've got.
Yeah,
I actually did a Twitter poll.
Oh.
I did a Twitter poll related to this, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago. I was like, what's stopping you from contributing to Koinos blockchain framework? And one of them, actually the most popular answer is, I can't work for free. And I thought that, I kind of expected that, of course. That's why, you build these businesses, you build these dApps, because you need to sustain yourself as well. And I know that Julian and Frank are working on, a decentralized sponsor system, and maybe that would be a pathway where people could work on Koinos blockchain framework, not for free, with some compensation. I think that's exciting. I hope that happens.
Yeah, I think that's a super important initiative, and I'm glad it came up in this town hall. There's two sides to it, right? Like there's accessibility of the code base, accessibility of the documentation. Documentation also a major focus of ours going forward. I think the world we envision is one in which developers are building applications on Koinos. And in the course of building that application, they find themselves needing something in the framework, needing some kind of microservice. And so what we want is for that developer to be able to go deeper, to access the right documentation, access the right repos, use the tools that are in place to make the changes. And that's how you get a truly decentralized, sustainable platform. And that's why the assembly script smart contracts, using WASM, all of those decisions were made was because the only way you really have sustained development over time is if a new developer can come in, find they need something, and actually make that change happen, not have to learn a new programming language, not have to learn entirely new technologies, whether it's how you're serializing data within the node, or how you're writing your smart contract, or how you're building your client, things on the client side. Right. So the microservice architecture, the WASM smart contracts, all these things work together to make things more accessible. And I think you guys touched on a lot of great things. I think looking back at 2023, it's easy to think not a lot's going on. Maybe not a lot's going on from us. I think a lot. I think our position would be that it's amazing how much was done by the community members and community developers without Koinos Pro. And the reason why we took this year to build Koinos Pro the way we did, and I can say with 100% confidence on my side, that obviously Michael and Steve worked their asses off this whole year. And good luck finding 10 engineers who could do as much work on Koinos Pro in 1 year as they did. And so we haven't been sitting still. What we've been putting in place is the foundation necessary to ensure that in 2024, it's 10 times easier to build and run an application and give it 100% uptime. Is that, Michael and Steve, you think that's fair to say? Ron, feel free to.
Yeah, I hope that's where we hit. That's the goal for sure. So I did want to.
I'm a witness.
Wanted to circle back. You very briefly mentioned the word documentation, and I wanted to go into just for a little bit. And big thanks also to Ron on this. So Ron has been organizing a community group focused on documentation. Also, just like if you haven't noticed, the Koinos.io site has been completely redone from a community initiative. Ron has been working with individuals with that as well. We have got a community group that's working on the documentation site. So there's going to be a facelift on the documentation site, as well as we're pretty much going through and reworking all of the documentation. And that we're working with the community on that, but that's also a really big initiative for us internally with Koinos Group is the documentation site. That needs a lot of work and a lot, just a lot of TLC. And so we're putting the manpower behind it and working with the community to get the documentation to the point where it needs to be to really truly be easy, intuitive, and useful for new developers in the Koinos ecosystem.
Yeah, Ron. Ron's our COO. He does kind of a million roles within the company, but he is spearheading, I would say, the documentation effort. So Ron, do you want to take a minute to talk about, how you're thinking about the documentation, where you would like to see it go? Because you've been talking a lot about it internally. So I think it would be good to share your perspective with the community.
Sure, absolutely. First of all, I just want to go back and say that when you said that Steve and Michael have been working their asses off, I've been a witness to that. They're really, I mean, I'm always amazed by what they can accomplish. So I just want to give them that credit.
Yeah, I mean,
That being said,
Michael trained himself as a DevOps in DevOps.
yeah, in no time too. It was like no
Yeah.
time. It's like, oh, Kubernetes is cool. Oh my God, it's so cool.
said
Yeah, that
said
was
only
awesome.
one person ever.
Yeah. Yeah, so the documentation we all feel is very, very important if we're going to onboard developers onto Koinos, because it's such a pleasurable developer experience as well as a user experience to work on Koinos. So it's a little bit tough right now if you're just starting from scratch, and we're targeting, because we have the TypeScript SDK or the assembly script SDK, which is basically TypeScript, we're targeting JavaScript developers. And a lot of JavaScript developers are not engineers, quote unquote, where they know how to do backend and work in these strictly typed languages. So if they need some help, and right now going to the documentation site, they get a little confused. Like I use myself as an example. I can do some front end, I can write some JavaScript, some TypeScript, but a lot of times I get lost. I have the advantage of working with these two guys, and just be like, oh, what do I do with here? And then they tell me, but we need to have that available to developers. So when we get a lot of JavaScript developers developing on Koinos, they can just go to one place and be able to find out what they need immediately. So I've been taking a lot of inspiration from the Ethereum documentation site. I feel like they have a ton of information there, but it's well organized and clear. And when you go there, you're not lost or things go over your head. So I'm very, very strongly working with the community, also by myself, on making sure that this happens at the latest by the end of the first quarter of 2024. And I'll also put out a call to action. If anyone wants to join, if you're a developer and you want to help with documentation, please feel free to reach out to me and we'll get you into the working group. We're just getting started now, so it's not too late. I encourage anyone to please help. And so far, like Michael said, with the Koinos.io website, it's proven that the community can come together and execute. I think also the Koinos.io website was executed very quickly. I think it was a week, and he just redid that whole thing. It looks really nice. So our community is really awesome. The community is, and the developers in the community are really awesome. We talked about Julian and Roman, but there's also Von Luton and Luke and Qui and Justin. We have a lot of really good developers. So I'm super excited about the documentation site, and I'd like for it to get to the place where someone could just visit that site, have somewhat of a decent knowledge of JavaScript and TypeScript, and be able to either integrate blockchain into their website or to start writing smart contracts, to run a node, to do anything on Koinos very, very quickly and easily. So that's kind of like my plan. And Steve and Michael are very, very helpful in getting that done, and the community as well.
Great, thank you. All right, I'm just going through my outline. So one of you did mention the upgrade that Julian has submitted. I believe voting actually starts on that today. This is one of the things I didn't mention is that we did have our first in-band upgrade of Koinos a while back. There was a bug there was a consensus bug. I believe it was poorly timed as usual as far as our personal lives go. But that was, who even remembers, right? It was patched. The old smart contract is basically ignored. The new smart contract replaced it, and Koinos has been performing. The bug was not exploited, and everything chugged along as normal. And that was a nice test of one of the things that makes Koinos special, is its ability to get upgraded so seamlessly and to fix system level code without requiring a hard fork. And so now we're going to have the second use of that system in this allowances feature. Do you guys want to talk at all about this upgrade?
Steve, you want to talk about it, or do you want me to?
I'll talk a little bit. This is something that we've went back and forth with Julian on to kind of determine the best course of action. I believe we will perform this upgrade in stages. Just to give you some context, it's around allowances, and the community felt like adding allowances to tokens were highly beneficial. So there's, in addition to allowances, we have a concept of smart contract wallets, which we did not want to lose that ability to implement at a later date. I mean, this feature has not really been exercised yet, but we believe it has great potential. And so this first governance proposal that's going through right now adds a new system call to get contract metadata, I believe, and that will allow smart contract developers to determine if an address has a contract that overrides or not, which will be crucial to support both token allowances and optionally smart contract wallets. This was all spearheaded by Julian. So shout out to Julian on that. This is the first community governance proposal so far, which is kind of a big deal for Koinos. So I'm excited to see that happen. I believe voting on is actually already occurring. And Julian, I see Julian in the community chats pinging people like, hey, what are you doing? Are you voting? He's advocating. So well done, Julian. And this is an exciting moment for Koinos, because really this is a community-driven effort right now. And that's we need it to be.
And I was just to say, and highlighting kind of, Andrew, what you were saying earlier with this, like, things are growing, so we got to focus on infrastructure. Things aren't, so we can focus on features. Julian implementing this feature and working on it just demonstrates, like, we just completely broke that paradigm, right? Because now it's a community-driven update, not originating from Koinos Group. So it kind of doesn't even matter what we're doing. The Koinos blockchain can still progress, which we're super excited about. And I would say if you've got some coin or VHP in a burn pool right now, or in Burncoin or one of the Fagata burn pools, and you're like, oh, that sounds super awesome, I want to make sure that passes, check that your pool is voting for it. A lot of them are, but not everyone. So you can still have an impact, even if you're not running a block production node directly. Moving your coin and VHP into a pool that is supporting the proposal will increase the number of votes to help it pass. So you can still have an impact on the future of Koinos.
Yeah, and you did review that code. Oh.
I wanted to shout out Julian. Julian made Condor. Mm-hmm. He made Fagata. He made nicknames. He's doing a governance proposal. He's working with Frank on sponsors. Julian's big. Well done, Julian. Shout out to you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, incredible. It's incredible everything that he's doing.
And I don't think he's gotten paid for any of the work. So,
yeah, Julian has a day job. Can you believe that?
How is that possible? I think he's got kids too.
He has kids too, young kids. So yeah, he is a busy man.
Yeah.
But if you do want to support him, he has you can support him through GitHub. I mean, I know I do, and then he has some donation addresses. So if people want to keep supporting Julian, he will accept support from the community.
Yeah, please do. He certainly deserves it. Michael, you reviewed that code, right? Our block producer is voting yes on that proposal. So I guess we're in favor of it.
Yeah, I tested it extensively on the testnet, and everything was working as expected. It was a fairly self-contained change. So this proposal specifically is just adding a new system call to get the contract metadata, which includes which authorize functions the contract overrides. So essentially, it is the piece of the puzzle that allows a token contract to know whether or not the sender of tokens has a smart contract wallet. And if they do, it'll delegate to the smart contract wallet. If they don't, that'll use the allowances. So it's a very concise small component, but it is absolutely crucial to the feature set. And it was, I tested it on testnet. Everything worked great. And then I also verified on mainnet that the contract that was uploaded via the proposal matches the one on testnet. And I also built it locally myself so I could review the code, build it, and verify that the bytecode matches what is on the mainnet. So we wholeheartedly approve of the proposal.
Yeah, and I don't think we can overstate going back to the Steam days and seeing how difficult it was when everything, any change to the blockchain fell on your shoulders. And in many cases, literally, Michael, your shoulders, and how we couldn't get any support from the community, not due to any fault on their part, but simply the design of the system. And so I think hearing you guys talk about this and thinking forward to the objective of having a smooth rate of progress, we're continuously making Koinos better and better and better. Being able to look over and see Julian helping make Koinos better so that you guys don't have to. And then looking forward to next year when it's 2 more engineers, 3 more, 5 more, 10 more, 20 more. And everybody is helping to make Koinos better. I think people underestimate when I look at how other blockchains are designed. And I see what I often see is I'm always like, there's only one team in the world that can fix that if there's something wrong there. Okay, I won't name any specific blockchains, right? But a lot of them will brag about, oh, we have this feature and it's designed into the blockchain. It's about the token or whatever, the governance system. And I'm just always like, well, what if it needs to be improved, right? Let's say it how it is. We designed, there was something I think we all agree was kind of missing from the token contract when we built it, because there's always something missing. There's always something that can be made better. And either we can make it better. And I mean, I think it's a difficult thing to talk about, but I think at the end of the day, like, it makes me feel good to see Julian making Koinos better, because I think the reality is that, like, we have our perspective. We think about a problem in a specific way. We have our own way of approaching these problems, and we have our blind spots. And the way that you cover up your blind spots is by getting other people into the room and bringing their different perspectives, because they're going to see stuff that we don't see. And so the only way to make a product better is to enable other people to come in and make suggestions. And, seeing this happening, to me, it fills me with tremendous pride and excitement, because it's like, how are people going to make Koinos better tomorrow? How are people like, oh, I don't even know. We don't, everybody asks for the roadmap. And I think part of us struggles with that, because we're like, but if we prescribe the roadmap, we limit how great Koinos can become in a weird way. Is that crazy? Is that
No, I think there's something like, the roadmap is not linear, it's branching. And it's not that we're choosing one branch, is that we can actually do all of them at the same time. And ultimately, we're letting the free market decide what's most important, right? The reason Julian's working on allowances is because he's like, this is important for the security of tokens, but also CoinDX wants to use it. He's like, yeah, we trust CoinDX, but like, if you have allowances now, like, you can use CoinDX and you don't need to trust it. Like, that's actually better. Not that I don't trust it. I've used CoinDX myself personally. I've read through the contract code. It's great. But allowances is this additional feature. And so the market sort of has decided this is an important feature. And like, I just wanted to go back to like talk a little bit about like, how would this look on other chains? Because I think when someone hears like, oh, the token standard didn't have allowances, like, that was a bug, we need to fix it. I'm like, no, this is a feature, not a bug. And here's why. On Ethereum, ETH is not an ERC20. That standard came later. And so now you have this problem that the core token isn't the token standard. So you've got all of these contracts that work with ERC20s that can't work with ETH. So what's the solution? Wrapped ETH. We have to make another token instead of using ETH, because it's so hard to upgrade.
Because they can't fix ETH. Yeah,
they can't fix ETH. Well, where all these other tokens are going to have allowances, and then we're just the stage 2 of this update is updating the coin and VHP contracts to have allowances. We're not going to need wrapped coin and wrapped VHP to trade them on CoinDX. We can just use those tokens as is. Like, that's mind blowing. Okay. And, I also like the long term, and you kind of mentioned this with Steem, and I want to tease this out a little bit, because we're like, oh yeah, Koinos has forkless upgrades, which we do. This is a forkless upgrade. Koinos also has hard forks, or could have hard forks. Okay, just because we can do all of this stuff with forkless upgrades doesn't mean that there's not benefits to hard forks. And here's what I mean by this. We're adding a new system call for get contract metadata. This is happening in Band. The benefit there is, and this is somewhat nuanced, but I want to try to explain it. On Steem, right? Everything was a hard fork, and so you don't want to do a hard fork for a small change, because it requires everybody to update their nodes. You need to contact the exchanges. Some exchanges have timelines. They're like, hey, we need to know 30 days or 60 days before a hard fork. So now all of a sudden, if you do a small change, you do that small change, and now you've locked in that hard fork for like 60 days or more. Plus you have to test it beforehand. So doing a hard fork becomes a very arduous process. And so you don't want to do hard forks unless they're meaningful, which now, like, it's essentially you've got competing desires. You've got this small change that, hey, everybody loves that change. It's small, not contentious whatsoever, but we really don't want to do a hard fork yet. So we'll include that change in the next hard fork. So either you just lump up all these small changes and eventually do a hard fork, or but they're probably going to be bundled because you're waiting for the hard fork to be convenient. And let's be real, a hard fork's never convenient, but you're waiting for it to be convenient. And really, it's probably only going to happen once you have like a contentious feature. And now all of a sudden, you've got all these features that everybody loves that they want to get in, but they don't want to do a hard fork. And now you're arguing whether or not that hard fork should happen based on the one feature that people disagree about. Okay? We just avoid that entire thing with Koinos because, that contentious feature can be done in band. And then our hard forks on Koinos, Steve and I have talked about this is, hey, so get contract metadata is a system call. Well, that probably should be implemented in the framework at some point as a thunk. We can do that whenever we want, right? We can add it to the framework, but because it's a system call in the mainnet, even though the implementation can exist in the framework, it's not accessible yet. In the code, we refer to as it's a we either have Genesis thunks, which are the system implementation that is active at the genesis of the chain, and then non-Genesis thunks, which are things we can add later. And then we do another in-band upgrade that then points that system call to the thunk implementation. And so you can view it as it's essentially just an optimization. Like, hey, this is being used all over the place. It's just part of Koinos now. Let's move it to into a native implementation to be more efficient. And we can do an update for that, which means, it's a hard fork in that if you don't upgrade your node, you're forked. But you can upgrade the node as just a normal release. And then 6 months later, we can do the in-band upgrade that actually points it to the native implementation. None of that is contentious. None of that is on any sort of like timeline, right? With exchange relations, we can say, hey, we've got the new version of the Koinos node. It's got important upgrades in it that are not being used right now, but they will be in the next several months. Can you please update to it at your earliest convenience? And then, like, once we've confirmed that all of the exchanges have upgraded, then we do the in-band the governance proposal. Like, we can still quote unquote it's still a hard fork by definition, but also doesn't have like any of the political drama that hard forks currently have. And like essentially we've in band, we're upgrading the token standard. If Ethereum can't do that, we're adding a new system call with a native implementation. That's essentially the equivalent of adding a new opcode to the EVM, which Ethereum can do, but it's a hard fork, right? And so we can do all of these things and bypass like 99% of the politics behind these sorts of changes.
More than politics. I mean, I would go as far as saying that doesn't even look like any hard fork that I've participated in. I think people underestimate. I mean, and you kind of almost downplayed it, where it's like the process of doing a hard fork is like you're talking to exchanges and you're going, basically, everything sucks. Everything's on fire. You still need to like us. But don't worry, we have a fix, and it's coming at this time. And please run this. And then we all gotta coordinate, and it's a nightmare because everything is wrong. You've waited on everything. You've waited on all the minor changes. You've got a major change, which is forcing the issue. And now
Oh yeah, and usually those major changes are time sensitive,
yeah.
right? Or it's like, using Steam as an example. Like, yeah, this thing is being exploited, and it's like maybe not the end of the world, but we really don't want this behavior to continue any longer. So let's not sit on this change. And of course, the people who are exploiting it, are like, don't do that change. I love this, right? And everyone else is like, it's horrible. Don't do that. Like, it breaks down, and then there's always this like push just to get it done.
Yeah, and the relationship with centralized exchanges is certainly a complex one, but I think everybody would be on the same page as saying that they are certainly an important actor within the space, an important stakeholder, and being able to, if you love exchanges, if you're all about centralized exchanges, then you should not underestimate how important it is to have a positive relationship and positive experience with them. You want them to like your chain. You want them to like working with your chain. You don't want them to be afraid that your chain will stop working, that it will be exploited, or that users' funds will be lost, right? You want them to think your chain is boring. And if you don't like exchanges, they're still an important stakeholder in the ecosystem, and you want them to have a pleasant experience with your chain. And I think what you're explaining is probably, I mean, obviously we don't have much experience with other blockchains, but I think we're putting ourselves into at least the top 5%, if not at the very top of like the most pleasurable chains to work with, or at least that's kind of where I think we're going with the features that we're talking about here, guaranteeing a really pleasant experience for them. And something else that came to mind when you were talking, when we were leading up to the launch of mainnet, I would talk about how Koinos would be its absolute worst at launch. This would be the worst state, slowest, most useless. And that was the point, that this thing is going to evolve and improve over time and get better faster than any other blockchain. A year into it, I know how I feel about it. I think I see where you guys are going with the points that you're making, but how do you guys feel a year in? Do you feel like that was a truthful statement, and that and that Koinos is delivering on that promise of being able to rapidly improve?
I mean, well, because it's a general purpose smart contract platform, it launched with no dApps. Now there's plenty of things to do. So it's kind of like night and day, right? There's a DEX, there's games, there's a social app, Koinos Social. Like, when we launched, you could send a coin back and forth. You know what I mean? That's a general purpose smart contract platform is destined for, improvement over time, more features, more things to do. I mean, it's out of our control, right? And that's beautiful. So yeah, I think you were telling the truth.
Yeah, and I think what's so exciting about Julian's proposal, to me at least, is it's an important first step, first demonstration of that process, because what we hope to see in the next year is more dApps, more developers finding what's missing, making those feelings known, and then making more updates. And so, this is just like you guys said, this is the first developer suggestion, developer governance proposal. but it's a sign of things to come. And hopefully in the next few years, man, it's really exciting to think about a world where, yes, we're getting more smart contracts, but we're also getting a stream of governance proposals. And we're just sitting back going, oh, look at how they're making Koinos better. Yay.
So, yeah, you said like Koinos can be rapidly upgraded, and yeah, that's true. I think, like in my own personal experience, looking at the first year of Koinos and say Steam, because that's the only other blockchain launch I've been a part of, Steam felt like it moved much faster than Koinos. But then, and I just went back and looked, and I don't think it is. Okay, like it, but like my feeling, I was like, I was doing way more stuff on Steam than I am on Koinos. And I look back on it. This is going to be mind-boggling, and I didn't remember it. I pulled up the source code just now. In the first year of Steam's existence, there were 17 hard forks. It's over a hard fork a month. And I was realizing a lot of that stuff was like a lot of those hard forks were adding features or fixing bugs in systems that on Koinos are user contracts. They're entirely in user space. And so if I take Koinos and I now say, okay, thinking about all the stuff that I had to write in Steam, most like 99% of that is stuff that is not system level in Koinos. Means now I have to do an apples to apples comparison. I have to look at all the other stuff that was built on Koinos, right? Canvas, CoinDX, the change integrations, nicknames, cap.
We didn't have a mobile app on Steam year one.
Mobile apps, right?
Sure.
Multiples. Like, I'm sure I'm forgetting stuff, right? Block explorers, right? Koinos blocks, Coiner, all of those things. And now I would be pretty much personally developing all of that in 1 year. Koinos has moved much faster than Steam ever moved, right? It is rapidly evolving. I think it just highlights that the interface and the framework is designed correctly, because we have empowered dApp developers to build all of these crucial features rather than requiring that we build them. And so 100% Koinos is rapidly developing. I mean, CoinDX already had a protocol bump, or at least a fix to their routing contract. So like we're already having dApps upgrading themselves and fixing bugs, which is huge. So yeah, 100%. Koinos is rapidly improving. It's I don't know how many hundreds of percent better it is today than it was at launch, but objectively it is better. As Steve mentioned, we launched and all you could do was transfer coin back and forth. And now we have, wrapped ETH. We've got USDT, right? We're integrated with a bridge. So we've got foreign assets trading on Koinos. We have our very own DEX. We've got games being built. We've had, I don't even know how many NFT collections launched, as well as the collection. And we've got Coin City. So we've got NFT and token launch pads now. Like Coin City pretty much just built SMTs, right? And I don't think I might be wrong. I still don't think they're live on Hive. So within 1 year, like Koinos, and now we got Coin Social. So like within a year, Koinos caught up and surpassed where we got with Steam in 4 years. And I'm not even including the additional 4 years it's been now that it's been Hive, right? So absolutely, Coin is moving quickly.
Yeah, you made a lot of interesting points. Yeah, I think it's kind of crazy to think about it the way you did. Like if you look at what we're doing as taking that accessibility that we saw on Steam and seeing that potential there for basically the RC system, to dramatically expand the reach of blockchain technology, and you measure the success of Koinos based on what we've been, how far we've been able to move that ball down the path over the last 4 years, and you compare us to anyone else. I think you could, look at how long it took us to put out Koinos. Right, like you said, it's been 4 years. It's been a long time. Who's ahead of us? Who's doing more? Who's better? What blockchain is really better? So, like, as you guys have proven to me time and time again, it's better to it's better to do things right, even if it takes a little bit longer, because you get that time back. You get that time back afterwards, after it's out. You might not look great, telling people, oh, you got to wait a little bit longer. Sorry. But when you look at the results on the rate of progress, and you look how far we've come, what we've delivered, the dApps that are running as Koinos on Koinos, as you highlighted, the features that Koinos has baked into it already, the capabilities that are there, all of this stuff seems to be compounding. And so looking forward to 2024, I think we've covered everything we hope to do and everything we hope to work with the community on doing. But basically, it's about onboarding more developers, onboarding more users, taking the foundation that's been laid over the last year and the last 4 years, and really running with it. I think, and it's really fortuitous that we're wrapping up the development of version 1 of Koinos Pro at the turn of the year, because from my perspective, and please, correct me if I'm wrong, 2023 can really be viewed as the year of laying the foundation, and moving forward, it's really much lower hanging fruit, improving the documentation, continuing to iterate on Koinos Pro as opposed to building it from scratch. Koinos is really positioned, despite the 4 years, which I think is incredibly fast for everything that we've done, we are on equal footing with other projects in the space. We still have incredibly compelling and unique value propositions. We are still the only free to use blockchain. We're still the only general purpose blockchain with proof of burn. We have incredible language support, and we can get even better language support. We're still the most upgradable, and we're only now really positioned to onboard far more developers, far more users, and deliver really delightful applications. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. The building Koinos was building the framework, building the foundation for the blockchain, right? And the dApps and the community. 2023 has been building a foundation for Koinos Pro, or really the foundation for Koinos Group. We needed both of those things to be built, and I think we have them built now, or with Koinos Pro, very, very close to being built. And yeah, I'm excited to be able to iterate faster internally, but I'm really glad to see the community has already been iterating quickly.
All right, great. I think that we covered a ton of ground. I don't think there are any developers or community members who want to join the stream. So, but we can always do more of these, and we could do shorter ones. This was intended to be a wrap up of 2023 because we're coming to the end of the year, and to talk a little bit about how we see 2024 going. So I think we've done a good job of covering those bases. Thanks again to all the great community members, community developers. There's going to be a lot of opportunities to get more involved. We're eager to support everybody in their efforts to do so, create groups, create community organizations to push forward different initiatives. I think we're super excited about where things are. It doesn't hurt that, the coin token has appreciated recently. We don't do it for that. It's not about that, but it's always nice to see people recognizing the value that Koinos is bringing to market. Personally, I couldn't really be much happier with how we're closing out this year, except in maybe a fantasy land. We're still doing what we love together.
Fantasy land of only green, no red.
You're right. Right. Yeah. But I think we've all said versions of this internally, but we get to work on blockchain every day. We get to work on what we think is the best blockchain every day. We want to do this as long as it is physically possible, hopefully, for the rest of our lives. Obviously nothing goes perfectly according to plan. But all things considered, I think 2023 was a banner year for Koinos. And I'm looking forward to 2024. Anybody have anything they want to add before we close this out?
Let's go 2024.
Let's go 2024.
Well said.
All right. Thank you guys for joining me.
Great job. Great job.
Great job, everybody. And great job to the community and users who helped us on this journey. And we look forward to working with you over the next year to make Koinos even greater. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned.
See ya.